Grace to you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. My name is Dr. John Diamond. This is the show America Unhinged, where we are fervently patriotic and unapologetically Christian. Please find me at americaunhingedradio.com. At the very least, I'd ask you to download the free ebook there titled How to Save America Using Imprecatory Prayer or Imprecatory Psalms. I just recently returned from a speaking engagement in Kentucky with Coach Dave and his group. Had an absolutely wonderful time down there. You can find us on Brighteon.tv. If you're watching now, then you're live streaming at 9 to 10 a.m. Or you can also find us in the Brighteon.tv archives. My show, as well as Dr. Alan Key's show, is also now being shown over on Conservative Television of America. So we need to be on as many platforms as we can, getting the word out to try to save this nation. Join me after this break.
I hardly need to tell you these days that it is right to be prepared for any eventuality. When the lights go off, when the internet comes down, we all want to be in a position where we can call for help if we need it, and be available to provide help if others need it. Nothing is going to be more important than that you communicate with the world and have something like a satellite phone. So that when the time comes, when the phones are down, when things are looking a little bleak, you'll be able to let the world know the trouble you're in, and make yourself available if you can be of help to others. I think in the times that we're living in, nothing could be a more important kind of safeguard against that lonely feeling that the world around you has gone dark and you may be the only light you've got.
Thanks for your support of this platform. Use the code BTV at checkout for additional savings. Brighteonstore.com.
Welcome back to America Unhinged. My name is Dr. John Diamond. Today we are going to have Dan Happel on the show. If you were with me probably a month or so ago, I did what I call Brighteon Week, where I tried to get all the other hosts that are on the Brighteon.tv platform onto the show. Now, of course, I only have 10 slots a week, and we've got over 30 hosts. So sometimes I couldn't fit them in, or sometimes within Dan's case, there's scheduling conflicts. People are running conferences, and a lot of the people in this movement are very, very busy. So trying to find a spot that's convenient in both schedules is something that is a bit of a challenge at times. But that's okay, because I believe the Lord's got his hand on all of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our scripture verse, as we do every day. And today we're going to be looking at Psalms 9:17. And it says this: "The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all nations that forget God." Now, if you understand that there are essentially only two really types of governments that are led by the Spirit of Christ and the spirit of Antichrist. All right, so you have the American Republic and you have communism. In my Americanism course, if you go to my website and you look at the one I do on government, basically, I say there's Americanism, and then there's every other ism: communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, imperialism, every other ism. And you can really follow that clear back to the Hebrew Republic. I mean, there were kings, and everybody had kings, and they were all slaves to their kings. God brought the children of Israel out, created what we would call the Hebrew Republic. There was no king, right? They were all equal. There was no king. There was no lawgiver other than him. They just had judges to keep from killing one another. Well, they kind of messed that up when they asked for King Saul, and it's been downhill ever since. So the war that we have today is really a war against communism. If you follow, communism is basically the government of the Antichrist. It is a government that says government is God and the government officials are God, and you must obey us. You must do what we have to say in every area, and that's essentially slavery. That's what Thomas Paine talked about. If you read Common Sense or you read The Crisis, it says that England had passed a law saying we can bind you in all cases whatsoever. In other words, whatever we tell you to do, we're your government, you have to do it. All right, wear a mask, shut down your business, socially distance, doesn't matter, we're in charge, you do. That is slavery, and that's what Thomas Paine said. If that is not slavery, then slavery does not exist. All right, so America was not founded as that type of government. We were founded as a nation that all men are created equal, that there's a creator, he gave us rights, government's job is to protect those rights, and when they don't, then we kick them out and put somebody in that will. That's Americanism. That's kind of the long and the short of it. So there's a lot of people who really understand that, and so one of those, and I was really impressed with my next guest here, Dan Happel. I'd like to welcome you to American Unhinged this morning.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. We do a lot of stuff that's on the same track, so I'm just pleased to meet someone else that's doing the same kind of thing that we're doing.
Absolutely, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to be lifting each other's arms up, kind of like Aaron and Hur did. There's you're out there leading the charge. Other people on our platform are leading the charge. For my viewers, Dan Happel has a show called Connecting the Dots, which you can see on the screen behind him there. He is on the Brighteon TV platform Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m., and then we're working to get him on some other platforms because he has a lot of good guests. He's kind of like I am. He's kind of the guy that would rather have the guests talk about 15 minutes because he finds good quality guests and says, hey, talk to the people. And that's what I try to do. I try to lift people up. So we may have a little bit of an issue here this morning, Dan, with you wanting me to talk and me wanting you to talk. But I want to I just want the people to understand how you got started. Tell us about your website and your ministry there.
Well, I got started on this Connecting the Dots program on Republic News Network. It's been 8 years ago, I think. And Bob Barnett had a program on Republic News Network. And he asked me, I was his guest a number of times. I'm kind of an expert on UN Agenda 21. I've done programs all over the country on UN Agenda 21, and now it's UN Agenda 2030. So that was kind of how I got started in the radio and in the podcasting thing. I currently have a program on Brighteon on Tuesdays, as you mentioned, from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, but I also do a program twice a week for the Patriot Soapbox Network, and that's on Sunday afternoons from 2 to 4 p.m., as well as Tuesday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m., and that's Mountain Time for both of those. So I happen to be on Mountain Time. But anyway, you asked, how did I get involved in this? What was my epiphany? My epiphany was the Kennedy assassination. I was 13 years old when John Kennedy was killed. And one of the things they did when they trotted out Lee Harvey Oswald, which showed that he had killed Kennedy with a 6.5 Carcano junk a carbine that I could buy for $3 a piece on Shotgun News, and we knew that was a joke. I mean, it had to be a joke. There's no way he could have gotten 3 rounds out in 2 seconds or whatever they claimed that he had killed Kennedy. So that was kind of my first epiphany, and I've been rolling downhill ever since. I'm a retired businessman. I had a commercial construction design build. My background, I got a degree in architecture, and got involved in the construction industry early on, and ended up with a nice commercial construction business in Colorado. I moved to Montana in the mid-90s because I had been successful in my business. Moved to Montana because I knew that everything was going to start falling apart, and I wanted to be back in my home state. I grew up in Montana. I wanted to be there because I knew I had a better chance of survival when they pulled the plug on everything. I was probably a little early, but I'm sure glad I'm there because I've got a ranch in southwest Montana in a perfect location. And anyway, I got involved then as a county commissioner. I ran and became a county commissioner in southwest Montana, and I felt like I needed to be involved in the local politics because I saw so many things that were going wrong, and very few of the politicians that I met even understood what their oath of office meant. I did. I've been in the military. I was in the service in the early 70s, and I knew what my oath of office meant, so I went to work as a county commissioner. And since then, I've been involved with a lot of the local Republican Party stuff, but I have to tell you, I almost detest the establishment Republicans as much as I do the establishment Democrats. The only difference, I think, is that at least I can trust the Democrats to act like a bunch of Marxists. The Republicans tell you how conservative they are, and then they vote the wrong way on just about everything. But anyway, I got involved in local politics. I got involved in the Montana Republican Party. And as a result, it was kind of a natural fit to start doing my own radio program. And when Bob Barnett asked me if I would consider it, I said, great, I will. Well, as you and I talked about a little earlier, it isn't about us, it's about the message that we bring to America. And the fact is, we have a message that needs to be heard. We've been screaming at the top of our lungs for decades, and finally the audience is there. For the first time in my lifetime, Americans are finally starting to wake up to the reality that we've almost lost our country. And if we don't do it now, if we don't save this country, nobody else in the world will do it. So it's up to us to bring good guests with good information into the programs, and then let them tell the truth to America.
I had you on because you brought up several things. I'm just looking at my notes as you're talking here. The Republic News Network, the Patriot Soapbox Network. You know, I mean, I've been in this fight 20 years, and I don't even know that a lot of these platforms exist. So, I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to be promoting all these other people and these platforms. I mean, too much of Christianity has been so self-centered and so selfish. It's I just want people to watch me and my show, and I don't want you to, you know, waste your time over on somebody else's show. If we don't come together and form a cohesive army that's all fighting in the same direction with the same motive, we're never going to win, because we're dealing with people that have been doing this, and you know, they've been doing it for 100 years in this country. I mean, in my book, Fighting the Next American Revolution, I mean, I can go back clear back to 1925 to show where the communists and the ACLU really started this. And you could probably follow that back a little further if you wanted to, and I know a lot of your guests do. We can talk about National Reserve, and we can talk about a bunch of different things. But I want to bring something up just because it was on your website. If the producer can put up that screenshot that I had put up. but I'm working on a course called Americanism, a course in citizenship and ethics. If you scroll down, I just want to show the quote. It was on there. It says, America is like a healthy body, and her resistance is threefold. It's patriotism, it's morality, and it's spiritual life. If we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. And that was Joseph Stalin. So Joseph Stalin, the enemy of America, there's three things that we need to target. The spiritual life, and they did that when they took over the Supreme Court and they kicked out God out of the schools, separation of church and state. As soon as that happened, our morality fell because now there was no standard for right or wrong. And the only thing that's really saving us at this point, in my opinion, is our patriotism. And that's something that's really jumped up lately. So if the producer can go to Dan's website, and this was just, I won't say ironic, but it said the state of the disunion message, the left's contempt for patriotism. So you have to understand that everything CRT, everything the communists and Marxists are doing, they've already won. They've already won 2 out of the 3. The only thread that is really holding America together is our patriotism. So not only do we got to promote and hold that strong and talk about American exceptionalism and how great America is, but then we got to reverse that and we got to restore our spiritual life and then our morality. And then that'll make it so much harder for the left and the communists to deceive everybody. So do you want to talk a little bit about that message there on your website, Dan?
Yeah, well, I do programs, like I say, I do 3 a week now between Brighteon, and then I do 2 others on the Patriot Soapbox. Incidentally, I used to do a program on the Micro Effect radio as well before Micro Effect went out of business. But we've been around doing this stuff for a long, long time. I want to mention the fact that I got involved in 2002 with G. Edward Griffin. I joined a brand new organization that he had just put together. It was called Freedom Force International. And I got to know Ed quite well. And so now I am the event director for the Red Pill Expos that we do all over the country. We usually do 2 a year. Hunter is certainly familiar with that, as well as Bob Sisson. And so we do a lot of different things. We get involved in a lot of different things. Anyone who is interested in my Connecting the Dots radio show, please go to my danhappel.com website, danhappel.com, that's the website, and please join our newsletter group, because I send a newsletter out twice a week. I do a newsletter that is concerning the programs that we're going to be doing and the guests that I'm going to have on. And it's interesting because we get an awful lot of feedback on the newsletter itself. I do it like it's an announcement for the programs, but I do it like a newsletter. And I have to tell you, I get an awful lot of good, positive feedback on that newsletter. So anyway, you know, John, it's just one of those things where you said something that was very important. We don't even know all the programs that are out there, all the different platforms that are out there, but it's time that we start working together a lot more and sharing a lot of the information we have, because there's a million people out there that are all doing their own thing, and it's time that we start getting a band leader together and we start singing as a choir instead of singing solo, because we'll do a lot more. It's a lot more beautiful song when we're singing as a choir.
Yeah, and that's really why I like Brighteon.tv. That's why I like some of these conservative television of America, these sites that are popping up now, because you can just go to a channel and know you're going to get the same content, not the same content, but the same spirit. Hey, all these people are going to be saying similar things, only from a different perspective, and that's what we need. Everybody just needs to turn off their regular TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all of it. you need to turn it off. CNN, MSNBC, don't ever watch it again. You're getting nothing but either trash or propaganda. Every last show, every sitcom, every movie, everything that you're getting from mainstream is anti-Christ, it's anti-American, it's anti-God. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. You can't look at anything on any of these platforms. You can't even go to ESPN without them pushing this fascist type of, get the vaccine and racism is running rampant. So I agree with you 100%. We need to start getting these platforms together, and that's why I thank God for Mike Adams and what the Brighteon TV team has done. The feedback that I'm getting is really, really good. They say that when someone turns on Brighteon TV, they're watching for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. So that would be my recommendation to them. Now, can you just tell us, and the main reason I had you on the show is really to promote your show and your ministry. Can you tell people where else that they can find you? Not only just your newsletter, but you mentioned some of these other networks.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Republic News Network, they kind of got put out of business a few years ago, but I've been with the Patriot Soapbox, and it is out of Spokane. It's a 24/7 continuous feed news program and conservative talk radio. And it is on the Zoom, the Zoom platform. So we do kind of a TV program just like we're doing right here. And it's good. They do a really good job with it. My producer, and he likes to be called just Thumper, is someone who was involved in the network to begin with. And they started it, I believe, about 5 or 6 years ago. And I've been with them now for, I think this is my 3rd year that I've been working with them. But I have to tell you, they do a fabulous job. So the listener should go there. It's called The Patriot Soapbox. And they just go to thepatriotsoapbox.com and they can tune in. Everything is, like I say, it's live 24/7. So there's some great programming on there. My program is on Sunday afternoons, which would be from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, and Tuesday mornings. And my Tuesday morning program would be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we do great guests. I think I was telling you about some of the people that I've had on my show. I've had, Dr. David Martin, Dr. Lee Merritt. I've had Dr. Edwin Vieira. I can't list all the good people. Patrick Wood. Alan's been a guest on my program a number of times, and I've been a guest on his program, Alan Keyes. So we just, I really take a great deal of pride in the fact that I bring such quality guests to the air. And it's not about me, it's about my guests. And I have to tell you, I've become somewhat, I won't say famous, but somewhat popular for the fact that I bring such quality people to the air.
Yeah, and that's good. And the thing about your show, and everybody's got different formats the way they do their show. Some of the feedback that I've got from my show is they said, I appreciate that you let your guests talk rather than me talking for 18 minutes and then 3 the other way. And I understand there are some shows that are just the opposite, and that's fine. Everybody's got their little niche. But you do the same thing. You bring on good guests, you introduce them, you dialogue with them, you let them talk. But yeah, we're there to let them get their message out and to let people know that there's more than just, a handful of people. We need to start giving people variety, and that's really what Brighteon TV does. I may not be your cup of tea, but Stu Peters may be, or vice versa. Just find somebody who's telling you the truth. And then start following them. I don't care if it's me or if it's Dan or if it's Coach Dave or who it is, as long as you've got people speaking truth into your life and really overcoming all the lies. That's what we need here in this country. So, Dan, I'm definitely going to have you back on again, and then we'll get you on with Alan. here shortly. But we got about a minute left. Tell the people where they can find you, where to sign up for your newsletter, everything else.
Okay, well, my website is danhappel.com. It's Dan Happel, and it's Happel. Yep, you've got it right up on the screen because that's why I put my backdrop on there. We do have, I think I've got 500 or 600 radio shows archived on that site. So you just put in a subject that you're interested in, and I almost guarantee it's going to be on that website. I also do my programs, as I said, I do Brighteon TV on Tuesday afternoons from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I also do Patriot Soapbox Network from 4 to 6 p.m. on Sunday afternoons, and from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Eastern Standard Time on that Tuesday program.
Awesome, Dan. Hey, I appreciate you coming on my show this morning.
All righty. Well, thank you.
All right. God bless. All right, everybody else, we'll see you right after this break.
That it is right to be prepared for any eventuality. When the lights go off, when the internet comes down, we all want to be in a position where we can call for help if we need it, and be available to provide help if others need it. Nothing is going to be more important than that you communicate with the world and have something like a satellite phone. So that when the time comes, when the phones are down, when things are looking a little bleak, you'll be able to let the world know the trouble you're in, and make yourself available if you can be of help to others. I think in the times that we're living in, nothing could be a more important kind of safeguard against that lonely feeling that the world around you has gone dark and you may be the only light you've got.
Thanks for your support of this platform. Use the code BTV at checkout for additional savings. BrighteonStore.com.
First segment, we had Dan Happel on there talking about the importance of different platforms, the importance of alternative media, because everything, and I mean virtually everything you are getting from the media is a lie. It's slanted, it's twisted, it's distorted. They are not interested anymore in journalism. They're interested in pushing an agenda. And that really is an anti-Christ agenda, an anti-American agenda. So my next guest is somebody who I've known from being born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, and being involved in this fight with Coach Dave Dobbelmeyer and many others. And I'm gonna introduce you to him, and we'll talk about his website and his efforts and everything else. But what we were talking about between me, him, and Dan is really the media and how the media just slants everything and doesn't give you a true narrative. And we'll have that dialogue here in a second. So Mark Harrington is the founder of createdequal.org. If we could put that website up, I'd appreciate that. And Mark, I'd like to welcome you to America Unhinged this morning.
Oh, great to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us about, and I know you quite well and know your efforts quite well. Tell the people who may not be familiar with you or your organization what you're all about.
Well, I've been in the abortion fight for over 20 years. I started Created Equal in 2011, which, of course, we get the words from the Declaration of Independence, talking about how we're all created equal and endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And the first one listed, of course, is the right to life. So our mission is to raise up the next generation of leaders to take on the culture of death, that is abortion, killing, and win, because winning's how the killing ends.
Yep, and there's no doubt about that. And that fight, Dan has said that on the show that we had on before. He said at least the Democrats are honest in their Marxist agenda, and he said the Republicans, and you know this as well as I do, and the Republicans, sing a song at election time, and then they do absolutely nothing to keep the promises they have. My viewers know this. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but I ran for House of Representatives there in Columbus in 2006 against Steve Stivers. And first thing that he got up and said out of his mouth was, "I'm not here to fight any moral issue." I got up and said, "I am, and it's abortion." Well, guess who the Republican Party nominated 123-3.
Of course, yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. That's the machinery. That's I just came back from Washington, D.C., and unfortunately, that's kind of how things work.
Well, tell us about the event out there. I know the media was saying there's like 100 people that showed up for that. Tell us about your experience out there with that march.
Well, I went there there were two marches. The first was the March for Life, which is the annual, pro-life march. We don't march. We go there to reach the marchers because a large number of those who go every year on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade, in our view, are marginally pro-life. In other words, they're there because that's what they do. It's a decent first event for somebody who's just thinking about getting involved in the abortion fight. But the victims themselves, that is the babies, are not really represented because they're dead. I mean, the only way to do that is through the pictures, the video and pictures, the still photographs. So we set up a jumbotron along the march route to educate the marchers. And a lot of people say, well, you're preaching to the choir. I'm like, well, sometimes the choir needs preached to, often. Sometimes that's the case. But like I say, we have people coming up to us even during the march, and this is a pro-life march, saying they didn't realize how bad abortion was. So that was the first march I was part of. And then, of course, on Sunday was the Defeat the Mandates rally. And we were able to be part of that as well. And that, of course, that was with, all kinds of people from around the country, including Dr. Malone and others, talking about how the mandates need to be, we need to stop them. So there's some great speeches there as well. And there are probably, like I say, I think around 15,000 for that. It was inspiring. Very good.
Good. Yeah. And the media made it sound like there's like 100 people showed up. So they always want to.
Of course.
Make it sound like a fringe. I remember when I met Coach Dave Dobblemeyer and Ellen Keyes in 2003, we were down in Alabama. This was my first really taste into the media when they were kicking Judge Moore's 10 Commandments out of the courthouse there. And me and my buddy went there. We left. We took vacation. We drove to Alabama, and we stayed there for 3 days. And then we'd go back to the hotel and watch the news reports, CNN and Fox and MSNBC, to see, because it was big news. It was all over everything every night. And that really woke me up to how badly these people lie, how badly they twist the truth. I mean, you could have 5,000 people there and 60 behind me, and they will stand with their back and they'll say, 60 people have gathered behind me. Well, they're not lying. Yeah. There is 60 people behind you, but there's 5,000 over there that they don't want to report on. So, right, I mean, you've experienced that type of media manipulation probably your whole 20 years, have you not?
Yeah. Well, I've stopped complaining about it. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? I mean, yep. we that's the deck of cards that we've been dealt. I mean, those are the cards we've been dealt. We just have to figure out a way to work around it, circumvent it, and get the job done, despite the fact that most institutions are against us, the media is against us, the government's against us. The truth will find its way to the people, and we're having success with that, with going straight to the public square. It's a traditional forum. You can't get censored that way, or generally speaking, that is, even though they're trying to shut us down when it comes to that kind of thing. But when you go directly to the people, you still, for the most part, have unfettered access to them. You don't have the airwaves, you don't have social media and those platforms generally on our side, but you can go directly to the people, and that's what we do. And we use these large video screens, huge billboards. We even fly tow banner billboards with aborted baby photos on them. It's old school, and that's kind of how we have to do it nowadays. We don't have the media on our side, and in fact, we don't have social media either. That's why these other platforms that are being built, which you're part of that, are so vitally important.
Exactly, and then now the next step of it is in what we're trying to raise up with the Content 20 Film Festival down in Texas. We're trying to raise up citizen journalists. Because there's people like you, and there's all kinds of people there that are at the event that can report for us, right? So, I mean, all you need is an iPhone on the end of a stick, and I can say, hey, Mark Harrington's coming live to us from the rally. Show us what the media is not showing us. And it's going to take that type of, first the platforms being built and given the opportunity and the availability, but then to raise up people that, hey, raise their hand. Hey, I'm willing to report from this event or report from that event. And then to get that vision in everybody's mind, because you're right, there's no reason to try to deal with them. We just need to circumvent it. We need to abandon those platforms, find the platforms that are telling the truth, but then we need to step up our game also, not only as far as production quality and message and everything else, but having the ability. And that's one of the ladies I'm working with, Fiora Hernandez, who has a show on here. She's a former Fox reporter, Telemundo reporter. We're working on that, trying to train people to be citizen journalists that'll go out there and just open up their new iPhone that's as good as any Hollywood camera and report live from the event, and then we can give you that platform. So we definitely want to
the second purge is coming. I mean, the first purge came after January 6th, and a lot of people got swept up in that, and they got shut down and canceled from social media. That is Facebook, Twitter, all the traditional platforms. But we all know the second purge is coming. It just takes an event, a precipitating event for the government and others, social media, these big tech giants, to say they're going to shut down this team, this group, this whatever. So I've been telling my pro-life friends for a very long time they need to deplatform. They need to take down and find other platforms. They're not listening to me, and these are folks that have invested millions of dollars in these followings on Facebook and elsewhere, and they are going to be sorely disappointed when one day they wake up and their channels are down and gone. It's time. It's been past time to pivot. I mean, for these groups, but they, for the most part, don't get it. We do here at Created Equal. We're building those platforms as well, alternative platforms. I'm still on Facebook and YouTube, but I'm so shadow banned now, hardly anyone can even find the program. So I'm just there because it's still available to me, but that's just a matter of time.
Yeah, you and me both. And that's what I mean. I got thousands of followers on Facebook, but, then I get like 3 likes. I'm like, come on. You mean
it's just ridiculous. I mean, what's the point? It's crazy.
It is almost is a waste of time. And I'll be honest with you, I think we even need to probably get away from like Gmail and stuff like that. Cause I got over 5,000, I think almost 6,000 subscribers to my America Unhinged. And when I send an email out, I'm just, kind of wondering to myself, how many of these are actually getting out to the people? So that's why, we need to go to Proton Mail. We need to go to Brighteon TV. We need to get on these platforms that are not censoring us. And like you made a very, very valid point, because Coach Dave Dobbelmeyer learned about that, didn't he? He had his 3,000 videos on YouTube. And when they canceled his YouTube account, he lost all his videos. He lost all his content. So the people don't understand this stuff's coming.
Right, it's coming. I mean, like I said, all it's going to take is another event. They can manufacture it, or it happens. it'll be the reason why they again, once again, there'll be a gigantic purge of social media, and a lot of people will be sitting there scratching their heads thinking, boy, why didn't we do something about this? Well, we've known this forever. I mean, it's been at least 5 or 6 years since Trump came around. We knew this was coming. And so that's why we have our platforms, but we go to the public square. That is the traditional form. It's old school. I get it, but you don't have any interference for the most part. I mean, that's still available to us. Every social reform movement has used the public square, and we need to continue to use it. We cannot stop going to the streets one-on-one, changing hearts and minds. That's the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what the left does? They go to the streets.
They're good at it too. They're better than we are.
They're much better in a lot of areas. You know, I had a guest on the other day, and we brought up the scripture where Jesus said, "The children of this world are more shrewd than the children of the kingdom." We're here. I mean, this is what I've been saying a lot. We're playing checkers while they're playing chess. They're 4 steps ahead. They've got it thought through. When we do this, they're going to pivot and do that. We just come here, boy, here's what we got. And they already knew we were going to come with it. They've got an answer for it. They're ready to fight it and destroy it. We've got to pray for the spirit of wisdom and understanding and counsel and might and everything that Jesus had upon him when he was here, and say, Lord, you need to make us more shrewd. You need to give us, let's play some chess now instead of checkers.
Well, they're diabolical. I mean, they're evil. They have no standards. So the ends justify the means with them.
Right.
Different than us, which we actually do have standards and principles. We won't violate, God's law. We have to do things according to his will. So we're limited in some ways. I mean, we're not going to do things, that are immoral to get our point across. So we're limited, but that's the way it works, and it should be that way. But we got to trust that the Lord's going to find a way to get our message out and not play completely the way they do. But they are very shrewd, as you say, but they are diabolical. These folks are playing, like you say, they are years ahead in their thinking, and we're just trying to recover. We're reactive instead of being proactive. That's got to change.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And the illustration I gave, I think it was last week on my show, I said, you think about a football game and you have one team that has to follow all the rules and the other team jump offside, pass interference, they can hold, they can tackle, they can do whatever they want. And that's really where we're faced with as Christians, is we're not allowed to lie or kill or steal or manipulate stories or make up a story or a false flag. We're not allowed to do any of that stuff, where everything's on the table for them. So that's why.
Yeah, and the referees they'll throw the flag on a minor infraction with us, and they'll let them. They won't see the penalty on their side at all. I mean, it's like I say, the deck is rigged, the game's rigged. We get it. We gotta unfortunately kind of live with that and work around it. Don't cry about it, and we can complain all we want, and we can point it out, which we should, but we should say, this is the reality. Here's what we're doing to still get the job done, and trust that the truth will prevail. And that's the thing. We got to trust that the truth in the end will prevail. I think we're seeing that take place right now with the pandemic. I mean, yesterday, Dr. Malone from the podium basically said the pandemic, so to speak, is over. It's over. And we need to act like it's over. And so that the truth is coming out. The vaccines don't work. Dr. Malone said they're a failure. They're killing people. All these adverse effects. There's, where it was awesome. I mean, I encourage everybody, if they have an opportunity, to find that speech by him at the Lincoln Memorial yesterday. God bless men and women like that. He's taken a serious hit for standing up for truth, man. I was tearing up when men and women stand up and do the right thing, speak the truth. I mean, we know the truth is on our side, and eventually, even though it takes a long time sometimes, the truth comes out.
Yeah, and I definitely want to find that video. And again, that's why this platform exists. I'd love to show his speech on my show here. I love the fact that you said, they throw a flag on us for a minor infraction, and then they let them get away with murder. I mean, we can just look at what happened this year, right? I mean, the insurrection, I mean,
So to
And we
speak.
know it
Yeah.
was Antifa. We know it was Black Lives Matter. We know there was a a lot of stuff going on there. But let's just say worst case scenario. Let's say that was Trump supporters. All right, they went in and broke a few windows, right? I mean, they were burning stuff. They were burning entire cities last summer, and they were just blowing off steam, is the way one reporter said it. So, yeah, we get the flag thrown on us for minor infractions, and they can burn down entire cities and take over city blocks, and it's just a minor infraction, you know.
Well, we got to play the long game. I mean, we can't be looking to the next event or the next election or anything like that. We got to be looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road. They play the long game. I mean, they have systematically marched through our institutions in the last generation. And we've kind of sat back and said, you know, we've abandoned those platforms and those institutions. It's time for us to play the long game and think, okay, we're in it for the long haul. Let's do things that are going to last, that are going to work day in, day out, regardless of the political environment to which we find ourselves in. And let's just keep plugging away. And that's what we do here at Created Equal.
Yep, I agree. They play the long game, and we had a brief conversation with Dan Happel on the show before, where he was talking about Kennedy being assassinated. Now, I was named after John F. Kennedy. Actually, my middle name was going to be Fitzgerald, but my mom fortunately talked my dad out of it. So I was conceived 6 months after he was assassinated. But that was the beginning of the communist overthrow of our country. That was the initial coup, is when they assassinated JFK. And then what happened?
I was just in Dallas, by the way. I went to the book depository, the museum there. It's interesting that museum covered it up too. They didn't even tell the real truth. You have to go down to the street and talk to the people who've been out there for decades telling the truth to find out what really happened. So. It's really, you're right. I mean, that's really when it began, when a lot of people lost confidence in the government beginning and during that time.
Yep, without a doubt. And the Warren Court all covered it up and said, it was one guy with his magic bullet. And, it's ridiculous. It's insane on the face of it. So Hollywood tried to cover up. They did a show called JFK, a movie with Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone's a communist, friends with Castro. And then, they actually showed what actually happened, but then they blamed it on the right. They didn't blame it on the communists. They blamed it on, people who were not hard enough on communism. So everything's been turned against us. The media, Hollywood, I mean, most of the movies you see are not real history. They're fabricated history and then separation of church and state. And I said that in my first book, Fighting the Next American Revolution. Separation of church and state is found in the Soviet Union's Constitution of 1936. It's not in ours. But when the Supreme Court, did that, when our spiritual life kind of waned, then our morality fell. So then you have the sexual revolution. Now people are getting pregnant outside of marriage and they don't want the baby. So then abortion comes along, and then the homosexuals come out of the closet. You can tie it all back to separation of church and state, which is a Marxist anti-Christ doctrine that you can't find in America from the time the Pilgrims landed up to 1960. It wasn't one precedent they could show. So those are the things, like you said, long game. Those are the things we need to restore: our spiritual life, our morality, and a lot of this stuff will take care of itself.
Amen. Amen. That's what we do with Created Equal. We're not just an anti-abortion group. I mean, although we fight abortion day in, day out, we are about discipleship, training up the next generation, and evangelism. We go to college and high school campuses. We're out on the streets. We're toe-to-toe with those people that disagree with us. We're willing to go to the front lines and take the necessary hits that come with standing for truth. And we're raising up a bunch of young people who are just on fire to get involved, looking for a cause. Our young people are out there, unfortunately, wasting their time on social media. They got their phones in front of them all day long. Yep. We've got an entire generation of young people that are being led astray. There's got to be people that are willing to point them in the right direction, give them a cause in which they can sink their teeth in. That's what we're doing at Created Equal. We're having huge success doing it.
Oh, man, that is such good news there. We got about a minute left. Tell the people where they can find you and how they can reach out and help your organization.
I appreciate that. First of all, I got a radio program every Thursday. It's released around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Mark Harrington Show, Activist Radio, The Mark Harrington Show. You can find that at markharringtonshow.com. I'm also on American Family Radio, 180 stations, plus Salem Radio here in Ohio. And if they want to find out about the pro-life ministry, they go to createdequal.org. So it's markharringtonshow.com for the radio program and createdequal.org for the pro-life ministry.
That's great. Look, I appreciate you playing the long game, and that's why I had you on the show, because I know you've been in this fight for 20 years. And as I've said before, a lot of people are kind of coming late to the game now that they're realizing our backs to the wall, and that's great. We welcome
better late than never, right?
Better late than never, right. But there's people that God has put in positions. So, Mark, appreciate it. Let's do this again.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, brother. God bless. All right, tomorrow we are going to do this all over again. Got a couple great guests for you. We will not have William Federer on as we are starting some new things. So join us tomorrow. God bless.